when it's time to forecast for the launch. So when you're ready to launch your product, how do we know how much product to order? Do we base it off of our competitors' average monthly sales? Do we hedge our positions to, order a little bit more than what our competitors are selling, a little bit less? Some people also ask the concern, we're not really sure how quickly the inventory is going to sell out at first. We don't want to have too much inventory sitting at Amazon because we're going to get hit with those storage fees. Another related question to this whole same topic here is, does Amazon charge storage fees even if there's no product in stock? And then again, it was kind of the same question. How do we estimate how large our order should be, especially in the beginning, so we can avoid those storage fees? So I'm going to answer that whole question of, how do we know how much product we should order when we're ready to launch? Now, I know for a lot of you guys, we're obviously not to that point yet, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. And obviously you can come back and review this specific topic. But the strategy that we teach is to order pretty much the minimum order quantity that you can get from your supplier. And here's the reason why. I'm all about minimizing risk, because when we're launching our own brands online on Amazon, there's risk involved. Obviously, we're doing all of our research, we're doing all of our due diligence. This first phase, the second phase that some of you guys are getting into with calculating, we're looking at pricing, market positioning. The FBA calculator module is going to be up here pretty soon. We're going to have a really good idea of, the kind of the market demand and everything. However, the reason I don't go off of, like the question was asked, I don't base my order quantity off what competitors are selling, is because in a lot of cases, those competitors have been selling for a long time. So our competition that you're analyzing and you're seeing on Jungle Scout, hey, they're selling 25 units a day. Well, they've been selling probably for a few months, maybe a year or more, and they have, a couple hundred reviews. We're not going to launch our product and immediately start selling 25 units a day. I've analyzed a ton of different products, dozens of products across dozens of categories. I do a YouTube video on this topic pretty much every week. So I'm always researching products to understand kind of the market. And with a lot of students I've worked with as well, I've noticed that there is a pretty consistent correlation between reviews and units sold per day in any category. So when you launch your product, you're going to have very few reviews, zero, honestly, when you first launch, right? But then you're going to slowly, and we'll talk about review strategy and everything. Don't worry, we're going to get to that here down the road. But as you slowly start to build up your initial reviews, your sales will slowly start to increase. But what I've seen from other friends and students of mine who have launched is, you'll start with selling 1-2 units a day. That's very standard. It's standard for across the board in all industries. 1 to 2 units a day. Once you start to creep up to 20 reviews on your listing, 25-star reviews, you'll start to creep up there to 5 units a day, 5 to 10 units sold per day. 10 would be pretty on the high end for 20 reviews. Once you cross 50 reviews, you'll really start to get consistent, or you should see consistent sales around 8 to 10 units a day. And then you'll go up or down from there. It kind of depends a little bit on your product, but that's kind of the standard we've seen. So that being said, let's rewind here to the original question of, how much product should we order? And my answer to that was, you should order the minimum amount your manufacturer will let you, because that is going to minimize our risk of ordering 1,000 units, not knowing how well our product is really going to sell, especially at the beginning. And we don't want to be sitting on 1,000 units for a year, right? There's no real point in doing that. So I would recommend ordering the lowest minimum order quantity you can. Let's say your supplier says the minimum order quantity is 500 units. I would even negotiate that down. And again, I'll help you through this whole process. We'll have modules about all of this. I'd negotiate that down as much as you can. Let's say you're able to negotiate that down to 300 units. I would start with 300 units. I don't care if all my competition is selling 50 units a day. I'm starting with the minimum that I can order to minimize my financial risk of launching this product. I'm going to launch my product and I'm going to watch it daily. So that's a key during the early launch. You're going to watch it every single day. So as soon as you send your inventory off to Amazon and it starts to get checked in and you start to see the sales come through, every day I'm going to look and see how many sales did I get. So you're going to see it. It's going to go one sale, and you're going to push your review strategy here as well. So some of those reviews, some of those sales are going to be coming in from your review strategy. So you're going to see one sale, two sales. And as you're going to monitor that daily to see how quickly is that increasing. Because the minute you see it really start to pick up, to going from one sale, two, three, four, five, like you see that start to pick up, you're going to place a reorder. So you're going to immediately place that reorder. It could be in the first week, could be in the second week. But remember, you've got 300 units in stock. So even if you sold 10 a day in your first month, which is pretty crazy, honestly, like that would be insane numbers. You would essentially have 30 days of inventory, right? If you had 300 units selling 10 a day, 30 days in a month. So immediately, like on that fourth or fifth day in, you see, holy cow, we're already up to 10 units a day. Let's reorder. You're looking at, if you're doing Air Express, you're probably looking at a 21 to 28 day, 3 to 4 week lead time. So that's kind of the strategy we use early, is minimize that risk, minimize that financial commitment early, monitor it daily to see how quickly you're ramping up your sales. But if you're seeing, kind of slower growth, one sale, two, then okay, I can afford to wait a little bit longer. You know what your lead time is working with your manufacturer. Then okay, once I hit 7 a day or 6 a day, that's when I need to place my reorder. But you should be fine. Like I said, with people I've worked with, we've used this strategy. It's worked really well. It's a great way to minimize your risk. Now, there was a question that also kind of relates to this about how long does it take Amazon to make inventory available to sell once they receive the shipment from me. The process of once you send product to Amazon, I'm going to whiteboard this one out actually. So the process of sending stuff to Amazon's warehouse is like this. Let's pretend this is your house. So if you're using our I'm going to say for those of you that are out of the country, there's a few people who are not in the United States, but wanting to sell in the US. This is your house or your FBA prep center. Okay. So they have your product here. So they have your boxes stacked up in your living room or in their warehouse. When you ship your product to Amazon, you're going to send it, and Amazon will tell you exactly where to send it. You're going to send it to an Amazon FBA warehouse. So I'm going to put this as FBA warehouse. Most of the time, it's going to be one location. Sometimes I've seen it will be two, and in very rare cases, three. But most of the time, your order is going to go to one warehouse, and it's usually a warehouse that's very close to you. So Amazon kind of operates on the hub and spoke model, kind of like airlines. So if I were to draw like the United States out right here, bear with me with my artistic skills right here. United States, like Tijuana, Texas, Florida. Okay. That's my map of the United States. They kind of have the hub and spoke model. So they'll have like a bunch of like their warehouse hubs, FBA warehouses, and then they'll have little warehouses all over the place. Like there's probably an Amazon warehouse in your state now. They have like, can't remember how many exactly they have, but they have, I think, more than 50. So the way they do it is like you'll ship your product to like this main hub, and then they'll ship it out to the little hubs, and they'll also ship it out to their other hubs. And they kind of just do that to get your product out into the whole country. That's how they're able to do prime next day or 2 day shipping, is they take your box of 100 units, you send it to Stockton, California. Stockton, California sends 5 of them to Oklahoma, 10 of them to Michigan, 10 of them to Atlanta, 7 of them to New York. And then if someone living in Pennsylvania orders one, the New York warehouse will send it to them next day delivery. But you, again, kind of going back, you send it to an FBA warehouse. So there's 3 different stages that you'll see in Amazon Seller Central here. You will see, I'm trying to remember the exact words because I'll probably mess this up, but basically these words are probably going to be wrong, but basically the three phases, there's like a receiving. Oh, I think it's processing. Sorry, receiving slash processing. That's the word it was. Processing, transfer. It will say FC processing, FC transfer, and it will say available. So when you ship, well, let's put 300 units here. So we have an arbitrary number to think about in our heads. When you ship 300 units to a warehouse, it's going to go through a receiving and processing phase where they will check in all your units. They don't always do that all at once. So they might check in 200 and then there's 100 that is still pending. Usually this part though, usually, I mean, with COVID, it's pretty uncertain, but most of the time this takes 1 to 2 days. So from the time the product arrives at the warehouse, it will take 1 to 2 days for them to process it. So then all 300 will say processing. Then the next step is FC transfer. This is kind of what I was talking about, where they transfer it all over the country and they'll do it in little batches. So you might see here, okay, 200 units are still in processing, 150 units are in FC transfer, or sorry, let's do 50 units because we're doing 300. 200 units are in processing, 50 units are in FC transfer, and let's say 50 are available. These 50 that are available are 50 units that have already been processed and sent out around the country. So these will show up on Amazon with the Prime check mark. So if you were to go to your listing, you would have that Prime check mark. If this says 0, then if you go to your listing, you'll see something where it will say, you've probably seen the shopping on Amazon, it will say available February 8th through the 10th. Like it will say, fulfilled by Amazon or whatever, but it will say available in like 7 to 10 days or something. That's because there is product in the warehouse, but it hasn't fully been transferred yet. So it's not technically available Prime 2-day shipping yet. Now, this whole process of going from 300 units to making them all available, that usually takes some time. Like I said, it will usually look like this, where like 200 will still be processing, 50 will be transferring, 50 will be available. That number will slowly increase. I would say it really depends on how many units. Like if you send in 300 units or 3,000 units, it's going to take longer. But most of the time, I would say most of our product becomes available in 7 to 10 days total, like all the entire order. But you'll see your first products available. Maybe it might only be like 10 or 20. You should see those available, and I'd say like 3 to 5 days. So anywhere from 3 days from the time they get it in their hands, you should see a few units available, maybe 5 or 10 units. And then slowly each day you'll see that increase as they ship more out and they all become, transferred around the country. Hopefully that kind of answered that question. And hopefully we've kind of covered the question as far as, how many to order. Let me touch on this question again really quickly as well. Going back to how many to order, the question specifically was, do we order based on competitor average monthly sales, or do we hedge our position slightly higher to run aggressive PPC campaigns for a viral launch? Thoughts on that? My thoughts on that are this. I would not be ordering excess inventory with hopes of doing a very aggressive PPC launch. The reason why is your Amazon pay-per-click strategy is going to be very based on optimization. It's the same philosophy with Facebook and Instagram ads. You don't launch a campaign on a Facebook ad, let's say, for example, and immediately on day one spend $100 a day or $1,000 a day. Very rarely would you do that, because there's a learning process, there's an optimizing process to this, to where, the algorithms will look at your listing, they'll look at your ad, they'll figure out what the conversion rate is, and they'll show it to more people. They'll bid higher, they'll bid lower for you. So if you were to say order 1,000 units because you want to be really aggressive with pay-per-click and immediately start spending $200 a day, when I recommend you start with $20 a day, that $200 every day your ACOS, your ROAS, whatever metric you want to use to, show how effective your campaign is, it's going to be really high. It's going to be really high. Most people that I work with, when they launch their pay-per-click, it's somewhere around 80 to 100%. I think ours, when we launched, was like 120%, which means you're basically spending more to get a sale than the actual cost of your product if it's over 100% ACOS. So you're losing money. You're basically just bleeding money to try to get sales. Whereas if you start off slow, start off with $20, $30 a day, you can optimize your keywords, change your bidding strategy, see which keywords are working better, see which product ASIN targeting is working better, let it optimize. And as you see your ACOS start to creep on down, then you increase your ad spend. It makes no sense really to spend $200 a day on pay-per-click campaigns right off the bat and just bleeding money, like losing $10 off every unit you sell. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that when you're better off just being a little more patient, being profitable early, meaning you're only spending maybe $20 a day, but you're optimizing quickly and you're not bleeding as much money, and then you start to get profitable. Then when your ACOS drops down to, 40, 30, 20%, then you crank it up to $100 a day, and every sale you make through PPC, you're making money. So I would not base my ordering off of trying to be aggressive with pay-per-click, because I already know I'm going to be smart about my pay-per-click. We're going to start it easy, $20 a day, make sure we're optimizing, gather some data, and then increase our ad budget as we see our ACOS start to drop.